You wouldn't believe the night. I finally walked away from the woman I thought I'd grow old with. For months, I poured my heart into that relationship. Every drop of patience, every quiet act of love, every moment of tenderness I could offer. I tried. God, I tried. I thought if I stayed soft enough, kind enough, consistent enough, she would eventually let me in. She told me early on that intimacy had to happen on her terms, that it was her decision alone. And I respected that, fully without complaint. What no one tells you, though, is how waiting too long for someone who won't meet you halfway doesn't just test your patience. It chips away at you, slowly and silently, until you no longer recognize a man in the mirror. This is a story of how I felt deeply, earnestly, and genuinely, of how I gave everything I had to offer and discovered that sometimes the hardest part isn't the waiting, it's knowing when to stop. We met at a local art gallery, one of those cozy, low-lit events where the paintings speak louder than the music. She stood beside a vibrant canvas, sipping red wine, her gaze fixed but far away. Something about her stillness pulled me in. I walked up and simply said, "Hi." Her smile lit up the room, not flashy, not practiced, just real. We chatted about color palettes, indie films, and our favorite soundtracks. When I asked for her number, her laugh was warm, unguarded, like she hadn't laughed that freely in a while. I left with her contact saved in my phone, and a pulse racing with a feeling I hadn't felt in years. Hope. Our first dates were quiet magic, not the kind that sweeps you off your feet with wild declarations, but the kind that feels like a slowly unfolding song you want to keep playing. We wandered city streets under a canopy of stars, shared whispered dreams over warm coffee, laughed in bookstores and kissed beneath a hum of flickering street lamps. She was brilliant, funny, full of thought and contradictions. She made me feel like I could show up fully, flaws and all. But even in all that warmth, there was a line she never let me cross. Early on, she sat me down and told me with careful, practiced precision, physical closeness was something she had to be completely sure about. I nodded. I respected her. And I meant it when I said I'd wait. Weeks turned to months. We grew emotionally close, tangled in conversations and shared routines, in nicknames and in side jokes. But physically, there was always distance. We'd lie on the couch, my arm around her, her head on my chest, the soft light of the TV casting shadows across the room. But if I leaned in a little too close, if my hand lingered just a second too long, she'd pull away, not with anger, not with rejection, just a quiet, sad smile and a gentle, "I'm not ready yet. It's my call." And every time I said, "Okay," I told myself it was enough, that she was enough. And she was, in many ways. But slowly, subtly, something inside me started a fray. I stopped reaching first. I waited for her to come toward me, to meet me halfway. She never did. I started to feel like I was living in someone else's story, as if I'd been cast in a role I didn't audition for. Not a partner, just a placeholder. Friends noticed. They asked questions. Why was I still holding on? Why did I accept crumbs when I was starving for connection? I defended her. I explained her past, her fears, her reasons, and I meant it. I never wanted to make her the villain, but I could see the questions in her eyes, even when their mouths stayed shut. Questions I had started to ask myself. Still, I loved her. I brought her flowers just because. I sent her morning texts before my feet touched the floor. I planned thoughtful dates. I learned to read her moods, her silences, the way her fingers fidgeted when she was tired. I listened when she opened up about childhood wounds and broken trust. I became her safe place, but never her lover. Every now and then, I'd try to open the door just a little wider. I'd tell her I missed her, that I longed to be close, that I ached to feel wanted. She'd take my hand, look at me with those searching eyes, and whisper, "I know, just a little more time." And I'd nod, gripping those words like lifelines. But the waiting became a weight. It settled over my chest, heavier with each passing day. I started to crack. I tried to hide it, but it showed, in my voice, in the silences, in the way I stopped initiating affection. One night after a movie, I reached for her hand and she flinched, not in fear, but in hesitation. And that hesitation cut deeper than anything she'd ever said. Driving home, I felt it settle in my gut like a stone. Maybe I was asking for something she'd never give, not because she didn't care, but because she couldn't. And I deserved someone who could. That night, lying in bed, I stared at the ceiling and let the weight of that truth bury me. Over the next few days, I tried to shake it. I buried myself in work. I distracted myself. But every moment with her echoed the same story. Close, but not close enough. I stopped talking about her to my friends. I felt ashamed. Not of her, but myself, for staying in a space where I felt invisible. Then came the night everything quietly unraveled. We sat on her balcony, the city glowing beneath us like a living thing. She was silent, somewhere far away in her head. I asked if she was okay. She nodded but didn't meet my eyes. I reached for her hand. She let me take it, but it hung there, limp in mine. I looked at her and saw, for the first time, the truth. I had been waiting at a closed door, knocking gently, hoping she'd hear me. But she had long since walked to the other side. I asked softly if she saw a future with me. She didn't answer, just kept staring into the night. Something broke. I stood, told her I had to go. She looked up, startled, almost afraid. I told her I cared, that I always would. But I couldn't keep waiting. I needed more than hope. I needed to feel chosen. I wished her peace, love, healing. But I couldn't lose myself trying to fix what wasn't broken, just never whole to begin with. She didn't stop me. No tearful plea, no final hug. Just a nod. Her eyes, lit by the city, too tired to protest. I walked out, down the stairs, into the night. I didn't cry. I didn't feel dramatic or righteous. I just felt free. The hardest part wasn't leaving. It was realizing how long I'd been gone already. That night, my phone stayed silent. No calls. No apologies. No come back. I lay in bed, feeling the ache of absence, but also the lightness of release. I missed her, of course I did. Her laugh. Her way of telling stories. The way she saw the world. But I didn't miss the waiting, or the quiet rejection, or the constant uncertainty. Weeks passed. Still no message. I didn't reach out either. I reconnected with old friends. I picked up dusty hobbies. I sat with myself and remembered who I was before the waiting. And slowly I healed. I learned that love is not about enduring emptiness. That patience is noble, but so is self-worth. That loving someone doesn't always mean you should stay. Sometimes the strongest thing you can do is walk away, without bitterness, without blame, just with the knowledge that your heart deserves more. If you're reading this and wondering if you're waiting too long, if you're starting to disappear in the shadows of someone else's fear, know this. You matter. Your needs matter. Your heart matters. Don't lose yourself waiting to be chosen. Sometimes the bravest thing you can do is choose yourself.